All right, guys, give me 1 second. I'm going to post a link to this video. Okay, hopefully that will work. And I wish I could see if anybody actually came over. All right, I'm going to close those pages. All right, I'm going to get started. And yeah, I really wish I could tell if somebody was actually here. All right, I'm going to get started. I'm going to talk about Acheron Inheritance. This is the first book in a new series of mine. I'll also talk about writing and a couple other things and do some Q&A. I did get some questions, but for anybody who's here, I will I will answer any questions that actually come up. And sometimes it does take Facebook a few minutes to cycle those questions where I can actually see them. So if I don't get to them right away, just be patient. And if I actually don't see it until the end, and I'm already done, I will come back and answer it. Oh, great! Somebody's here. Thank God. Hi, Melanie from the UK. All right. All righty. Okay, so I'm just going to refer off screen. I got my notes about things I want to talk about, and all right. So, what's Acheron Inheritance all about? So, the premise for the story is, um, it's the aftermath of a fall of a galactic civilization, and the rebirth of what comes next. Um, Part of the premise is, it is a guy with a problem, right? So what would it be like to wake up on a world where there's no other humans around and you're stuck inside a robot body and other mechs are hunting for you? What do you do? And that's really how I got started with this story. Um, there's a little bit more as far as the world building and the situation for this series arc, some of which I could talk about today. Other, I really can't go into because I'll give stuff away, and I don't want to do that. So, oh, we have a couple more people watching. That's great. If you guys have any questions, just put them over in the comment, and I'll get to them. Um, so one of the things, as far for this story, is set in very far future, where humans have colonized a pretty significant chunk of the galaxy. So it's thousands of years in the future. Um, some of the I like to play with technology in my stories. So there's a lot of it's not like a mashup of all this different tech. A lot of the tech is that I selected for this series is purposeful. And it's not just haphazardly put together. So for traveling, there's FTL jumps. If you've ever seen, it's where you fold space and you go from here to there in an instant. One of the things I liked, I guess I'm a Battlestar Galactica fan, and one of the things they had on there was the red line. And if you go beyond the red line, that's the point in space where, if you see so far that your accuracy is less accurate as to what could potentially be there. So that creates an obstacle and things to deal with, and also you have to deal with the capabilities of the jump drive. So that's one of the technologies in there. Human consciousness in a robot. So in in this book, Quentin is what's known as a personality matrix construct. It's what happens when you upload the human consciousness into an energy storage system, which is called an ESS. So data stored in energy can be accessed at the speed of light, which is very fast. And unless we come up with a way to access data faster than that, I think that's going to be around for a long time. So, um, so it's not as simple as, oh, my mind was in my body and now it's in a machine and that's how it works. It's you have help of virtual intelligence that help manage the relationship between the human mind and machines and the things that you can do, because in order to maintain sanity, you have to actually feel human. You got to be able to touch things, smell things, taste things, and all that kind of stuff. So um, Quentin is thrust into, he's uploaded into a garden robot, which is, it's decrepit, it's old, but it's got some systems in there that make it a good fit for PMC when you have no other choice. A garden robot is designed to deal with delicate plants and things like that. So it has certain haptic capability, so you can touch and feel, but he can't. He's not able to express any facial expressions because it's not that sophisticated of a robot, which is frustrating for him, and was a little bit of a challenge to write, since that conveys a lot of emotion, facial. Hey, Warren, thanks for coming on. Um, so yeah, I Quentin's stuck in an agricultural bot, and he hates every second of it, which was, it's kind of fun, fun to write. Other types of technology that I use in there, there's anti-gravity, there's things that are hyper capable as far as try not to give stuff away, but weapon systems that are hyper capable, particularly missiles. Hi, Suzanne or Susan. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, but we have almost the same last name. It's very close. All right. Great. Here we go. Okay, part of the premise for Acheron Inheritance, is that no matter how far we go, right, as far as future tech and stuff like that, that the onset of new technology does represent a certain danger. There is a certain downside to that, and that can bring about wide sweeping change. I mean, if you just think about the last 20 years, like when my kids were born, my son was born in 2001. I mean, we had cell phones, but and a little bit with digital cameras, but it's nothing like today where you snap and upload, and it's not like this grainy pixelated picture. It looks awesome. Um, and you have social media and stuff like that, and we are going through the growing pains of what to do with all this tech. So it's kind of it's kind of fun. So I took that concept and I applied it to a galactic civilization. Part of the lore was when Quentin was first uploaded um, into an ESS somewhere. Um, he was it was at the beginning of what was known as the Federation Wars, and a whole lot happened between when he was first uploaded and when he was downloaded. Part of the limitations that Quentin needs to deal with is he's in a substandard robot body and he can't access all the memories that he needs in order to, really know who he is. Um, Part of the VI's job, which is Radek, part of his job is to help Quentin, where, like none of us remember learning how to walk, but we walk perfectly fine. Same thing with running. So it's like he has skills that he doesn't necessarily remember learning, but he can use. Sometimes that kind of knowledge gets Quentin into trouble, which has some pretty terrible consequences that he needs to come to grips with. Um, so that stuff was a lot of fun. Um, the feedback I've gotten from you guys, or people have read it, which I'm always astounded by how fast people read, because within 24 hours of that book going live, somebody had already finished it, emailed it to me, or commented in my Facebook group that they'd read it, and that's something, and that they really liked it, which is great. I've been writing nothing but First Colony books for almost 3 years, and I wanted to get to a point where I can alternate between two series, um, just to give me some breathing room. Although I think I've done a great job with keeping First Colony fresh with the different types of stories I've told in that series. So generally the feedback is pretty good about that too. But yeah, so the reception of Acheron Inheritance has been very positive. For anybody who's left a review, I really do appreciate it. It helps. I don't do things like advanced review copies or anything like that. So whatever reviews get up there is done by you guys. And I know beforehand I have some pretty fast readers up there that will go through, um, read it really fast. I hope they read it again and maybe slow down a little bit, but and do review the book, which definitely helps. Yeah, Warren, we share that. I'm still waiting for my paperback too. I wish I could actually have something to hold in front of you to, because then it feels a little bit substantial when I have them, and I did order a couple of extras so I can give away some signed copies. So if people are interested in that, like, share, comment, that all helps. And I'll pick somebody at random. I'll probably wait a week, let the videos cycle through some, Facebook to show it to people. Plus, I'm doing this at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I know not everyone can make it. I mean, so I think somebody is from the UK. Yeah, Melody. It must be 8 o'clock. I'm guessing, unless we're in daylight savings time, where there's a few weeks where you're 6 hours ahead instead of five. And I'm sure there's people around the United States. I know not everyone can make it at this time, and I want to give everyone a chance to watch the stream. Um, okay, so the Federation Chronicles were it's post a devastating war that pretty much affected every federation out there. And one of them is called the Acheron Confederacy. I'm not going to give too much away by saying that Quentin is from this federation, but he's hesitant to share that. Once he learns that, he's hesitant to share it because it's like this. It's almost like, if I was going to draw a parallel from our own real history, it's almost like being called a Nazi. Where it's just synonymous with evil. So there is a stigma there with that. Um, but this type of universe and the people who live there, it's not the nicest place because they've been dealing, with a post-war society. So there's it takes a certain amount of grit to survive here. Salvaging is the prime economy. I mean, there you have some people who are making things, and I haven't really explored that yet, but that's definitely it's in the planning. So salvaging is a way of life. People in some form or another are involved with salvaging, picking things that are still useful, and making use of it now. The ships are very old. It's been almost a century since the Federation Wars, so they're dealing with things like that. Some various groups of people, because we're a bit tribal. We band together. We'll do that, and they're trying to cope with the current state of affairs in their own unique way. not necessarily with force, but with other ways and other skill sets. Um, and that's yeah. I just want to make sure. Oh, okay. Audiobook. I know there's some audiobook listeners out there that only listen to audiobooks and only have time for that, and I get that. Yes, it is in development. Um, the current target is November. It's going to be narrated by the talented Phil Thrawn. If you've never heard of him, he's narrated another series of books that was quite popular called Space Team, and it was written by Barry Hutchinson. If you liked a little bit more of a humorous science fiction series, you should check it out. But that's where I first heard Phil, and I think he's going to do a great job with Acheron Inheritance. And I'm looking forward to listening to it myself because it allows me to hear the story without um, putting my editor cap on and trying to, lets me enjoy it in a different way. Let's put it that way. So I'm shooting for November. I don't have a concrete date only because once the files get uploaded, it goes through a what do you call it? Quality review process, and that's out of my hands, and that's determined by how many other people are uploading books. So once it gets through that, it'll be live, and I will announce it to the world and here. So we'll go for that. Um, One thing for anybody who's watching live, if you guys do have questions, put them up here, and I'll make sure I delete that. I delete that. I actually write that, and I just scrolled down and saw that there is some other comments. So Warren, Kindle is yuck. When somebody gave me a Kindle, I think 2010 or 11 as a gift, and at the time I was like, "Well, this will never catch on." And then I started using it, and I like to read at night before I go to bed, and it's just lighter in my hands. And yeah, I got addicted to it. So here we go. So yeah, I get it. My kids prefer paperbacks, even though they read screens all the time. But for taking in fiction or nonfiction books, they prefer to hold the real book, which is interesting. I suspect it's going to change, but that's just my opinion. Hi, Joe. And okay, there was Connor's a great character. Yeah, thank you. Um, yeah, I like Connor too. I'll talk a little bit about First Colony. I will. I'll talk about some other stuff too. Let me go through my list here. All right, so I'm going to get to some questions. Common questions either that people have emailed to me or if they submitted the form and had a question. That's where I'm drawing these on. Um, One interesting question that comes up is, do I ever plan to write a spin-off series from First Colony or Ascension? So maybe. There's a strong maybe for First Colony because one recurring question I get is, readers, you guys want to know what happened to Earth after Connor left, and is in fact everybody gone there? Is Earth destroyed, or did some some of us actually survive? And that would be an interesting story or trilogy to go into. Um, but my schedule is booked through the end, basically through this time next year. So what I'm going to be working on is two more books in the Federation Chronicles. I'm currently working on First Colony Book 11, which is called Invasion. And then I might work in book 12 in between. So my goal was to alternate between the two series to give me a little bit breathing room between each project. And the theory is that I'll, I feel like I'll write better if I have a little bit of space between the two. But if it blows up in my face and I don't like it, then then I'll pick one and I'll charge on with that one. I did try some new things this year before the pandemic that um, didn't really work out the way I thought it was. I'll, when I talk about writing, I'll go into that. Um, Ascension series. Some people have asked if I plan to continue or write a spin-off series. All right. So the initial Ascension series is complete. I did leave things in a state where I could go back and write what happens after. So for anybody who doesn't know what the Ascension series is, it's a six book space opera series about our first contact with an alien race and multiple alien races, as it turns out. Um, and that it was a fun series. One of the inspirations for that series was in the news. We had the New Horizons spacecraft that flew out to Pluto and took the first high res images. And I was like, man, what if they, what if there was an outpost on that, and they, this aliens were watching our progress. My particular spin on that was the aliens, weren't necessarily evil. They weren't inherently good, but one of the gratifying things about that series that I got to write is to, to be human and be proud as we actually have something to contribute, rather than humans are dumb and we're too stupid to do anything right in the universe. So I do like that. And I get to convey that in that series. I mean, it doesn't mean we're perfect. I don't write, I do write villains and stuff like that. But yeah, that was one of the things I did enjoy writing in a series. That was my first science fiction series. I actually got started writing by writing fantasy, which was a bit of a mashup between fantasy and science fiction. And then when I finished that series, I was like, well, I kind of like science fiction, so I'm going to try writing that and just to see how readers replied. And at the time, I was working full time, and more readers liked my science fiction than my fantasy, so I kept on going with that. Um, but yeah, that's a little bit about Ascension series. When is the next First Colony book? All right, I'm like neck deep in it now. I'm shooting for about mid-November. It might slide toward the end. It really depends on when I finish it and um, my editor and proofreader availability. I mean, they know it's coming, but generally the process where we go back and forth, excuse me, takes about 3 weeks at the minimum. I that I'm not going to rush that process because it allows me to deliver, a pretty clean manuscript, and that's important to me, rather than getting it out a few days early. So stay tuned. I will post updates, but yeah, First Colony, especially with this book 11, for anybody who's been following that series, this has been I've been building up to this epic showdown, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of story threads to weave together for this as I've been plotting it out. Um, so yeah, just gotta pause for a second, take a drink. I guess my throat's getting dry. And for anybody who hasn't read the First Colony series, that is a series. It's set a couple hundred years in the future, and it's about a um, it's about a guy named Connor Gates who gets shanghaied and wakes up on the colony world that's 60 light years from Earth and took about 200 years to get there. He's a military person, and a lot of people have liked that series. It's pretty much why I was able to transition from into writing full time 3 years ago. So, oh, thank you. You like the series. I'm gonna scroll down here. Another common question I get: would First Colony or any other of my series be adapted to TV or movies? I don't think a 2 hour movie is enough to encompass my long running series. So, but the answer to that is no, nothing serious, and it's it's kind of complicated in that I would have to write screenplays and stuff like that and submit it. And I don't have time for that. I'd rather write books right now. It would be great. I would be open to it, of course. But even if I were to license the rights out to somebody in Hollywood, um, there's a lot of obstacles to overcome for it to be actually put into production and shown on like Amazon or Netflix or Hulu, any of the networks out there. Um, and the special effects budget would be astronomical. But as we get better with computers and CGI, I bet they could bring that cost down, um, and hopefully not do it at the expense of the story. So okay. Another common question I get: how many books will there be in the First Colony series? It's interesting. Because I read the reviews. Not every day. I schedule my time because sometimes it can throw me off. Uh, but yeah, and it just seems like when I don't know if there's an expectation that the last few books were going to be the last books in the series, and that just wasn't the case. I knew I was doing a multi-book arc for this because I couldn't write all that in one book. Um, but yeah, I do have a book 12 planned after book 11, and like I said earlier, book 11 for First Colony will wrap up the at least we'll have resolution to the multi-book arc I was going in that series. I guess I don't talk enough during the day. I keep losing my voice. Okay. Were there any parts of my books that had a major emotional impact when I was writing it? Absolutely. I do get into the stories. Um, One of the First Colony's foremost in my mind because I've been working on that for the past 3 years. But when Noah was injured, I received a lot of fan mail about that. But the emotional impact for that was when Connor was at Noah's bedside, and he's in a coma and he prays for his friend. That was that was really emotional for me to write, and it marked a pretty significant milestone for Connor, who in the first book he's a bit jaded, he's angry, and that just marked a process of him coming into peace, where he's actually, well, I will pray for you because there's a strong friendship there. So that was one. Um, there's a scene in Fracture, which I think is book 8, where Franklin Mallory is pleading with Connor for his son's life because he's got to the part where Lars was doing so much bad things that Connor was like, if he's gonna end up dead the way he's going, and that for me tugged at the heartstring. I mean, I'm a parent, I'm a father, I have 2 boys, and I want them to be on the straight and narrow. And the instinct to protect your children, is strong. So I do like that. Another scene is when Sean finally gets home and Oriana finds out that her brother has been killed and he's got to be there for her, and he's also dealing with finally getting home safe and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I do get emotional when I do write these scenes. Whether it's sad, happy, angry, yeah, I get into them. They're fun. Um, and I do have similar experiences with the other series, like the end of the Ascension series. I still remember writing the end of that book. It was like 2 in the morning, and I didn't. it was a long, extraordinarily long writing day, only because I was so I was into those last chapters. It was great, especially with Zach and Athena and Kaylin and stuff like that. Even with the Sapphirine Order in the third book, where you know Aaron rises, which means that the Eldarin, which are these great dragons that heal him, and the king returns, and yeah, those are great scenes. I do get into them. Um, what was the most surprising thing I learned when writing my books? I do a lot of research for the different technologies, and or like I do touch upon like PTSD and things like that in some of the books, and so I researched that kind of stuff. But some of the interesting things were all right for Acheron and Inheritance, speed intelligence. I put that in one of the author's notes. This is where I looked up stuff about the type of technology that was going on, and basically speed intelligence is you can crank up your frame rate, which is your perception of time, and be able to think way faster than normal human can, um, but with the capability of the human mind, which is to generate ideas, where your virtual intelligence can be really good at calculating pi, but maybe not have multiple things going on at the same time and be able to arrive at a rational thought at it. So that was one of the things. Another one, there's a theory that you could pull unlimited power from higher dimensions. I think that could be pretty amazing. We're probably very far away from that, so but it is pretty cool. Um, Again, if anybody has questions, post them in there, and I will definitely answer them. Um, all right, so how did I get started writing, and what struggles did I have to overcome to get where I am now? Um, I wanted to be a writer in high school and in college, and I didn't write. I wrote some, but not a whole hell of a lot. I didn't take it as seriously as when I went and looked up other writers' journeys. Plus, I didn't write well enough that I thought. I didn't really understand that it was what you have to go through in order to eventually write well. I was one of those people who kept revising what I'd done and not really finishing anything. So my so I actually didn't start writing again seriously until 2013. I had just finished getting my master's degree, and while I was working full time. So and while I was doing that work, I kept thinking, I'm like, I could be writing, and so when I finished my master's degree, I could either get another job, a higher paying job, or I can maybe switch careers. And I had intended to. I was like, well, I wanted to write. I'm going to write a book. I want to finish it. And at the time, I was going to approach traditional publishers and go through that tradition. And it was during that time I found out about independent publishing and stuff on the Kindle, and I like that. I like having the creative control, and I've learned a lot since that first book. But yeah, that's basically how I got my started. At first it was I was what I call a hobbyist with potential, and that was where I wrote the Sapphirine Order series, and I kept trying to get better at telling my stories because I just want to be good at my job. Um, and the reception of the Ascension series really made me take notice because um, doing this part time, I'd almost earned my salary that I was working full time, but now it wasn't quite there yet. And then in 2017, if you've read the author's note that I put in the back of Vigilance, I do talk about this, where I'd found out I was getting laid off from my job, and they gave me like 6 or 7 months notice, and my sales weren't quite enough for me to actually work full time and live up to my obligations. Um, but I had 6 months, and I had all the data was pointing for me that, yeah, you could take this risk, and maybe you should. So I sat down and wrote up a plan with my wife, to give her some comfort that I wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to write a book and somehow everything will get paid. It wasn't like that. I had a clear plan for that, and from that came the First Colony series. And when I published that in September 2017, um, that series took off and allowed me to keep writing full time. Interestingly enough, I do journal, and I started journaling during that time just to help me cope and stay focused. And I think the day I published First Colony, the Genesis, I actually wrote the idea for Acheron Inheritance. I called it something different, but that was the premise there of being, what if I woke up on a deserted planet, or a planet that suffered some kind of catastrophe, and I was stuck in a robot body, and I wanted federations and far future type stuff. So it was that. Um, that's basically my writing journey in a nutshell. I do I do love the craft, and I love talking craft with other writers. I put a lot of time into trying to improve my storytelling capabilities with each story, and I think people, I think readers appreciate it. And the response I get is, yeah, you could see the journey, especially for people who've gone back to read my earlier stuff to now. You can really see the progression there. Hey, Mark, thanks for coming. Um, what sci-fi authors, or maybe other genre authors, do you consider your biggest influences and maybe aspirations? That's a good question. Well, let's see. When I was growing up, I used to read a lot of fantasy, and then I transitioned to science fiction. I read some thriller, like Michael Crichton, so techno thrillers and stuff like that. Um, um, David Weber's earlier works I particularly liked. I have studied in the last few years because I think if you've read a David Weber book, he likes a large cast of characters. And when he has them all in the scene, the transition and the conversation for the scene is really well done. So I did pay attention and study that. And believe it or not, I some of the influences I would consider is Jim Butcher. I studied his writing because I wanted to look at writers who wrote a series that got stronger as the series came out, and they're not there's not that many of them, which is interesting. You see the people who have a smash hit, and then it kind of declines as they go on, and that's not what I wanted. So I started looking at different writers to see what they were doing, and in different genres, because each are good at different things. And for Jim Butcher, I was looking for, well, what did you do in the story that made people connect with it, to the effect that they do. And if you ever read the Dresden Files, I don't even like noir, or I was starting to outgrow fantasy, although I liked that series quite a bit. Um, so those are some of my influences. I I also read a lot of like nonfiction books, but yeah, like I'm just looking at my shelf and I see my Terry Goodkind books, and it is, I don't know if you've heard, but he passed away yesterday, which I was shocked and sad, because I was a fan of his work too. Um, that's a couple of them. Um, okay, some of the other questions we get. What inspired me to write the First Colony series? I like exploration stories. Um, it, Whether it's a book or a TV show or a movie, like I'm a fan of Stargate, or Star Trek, in Stargate, when they went to a world where there was an existing civilization, whether they were still there or not, I was on board. Those are my favorite episodes. And I wanted a series where we went to another world and found remnants of a previous civilization. That was the premise for the first Colony book, and it's fun. I mean, I'm still writing. It's 11 books later, and I'm still writing about you know everything that's encompassed around that particular concept. I did touch upon it in the Ascension series, with the drawer and the Boxons who were trying to find them. I just like that stuff, and I think it'll be an element in most things that I do write. Um, what fictional world would I choose to live in, and why? I would go to New Earth, hands down. I think New Earth is awesome, even with all the dangers there. Um, I think it can be breathtaking, which is why I like to write there. Um, do I have a favorite side character in my series? Oh, well, I already mentioned Noah. Noah is God. He's such a good guy. I mean, and he's not like he's very aware of his limits and stuff like that. While I did hurt Noah, it wasn't easy. Juan Diaz, I love writing Diaz. Diaz just tells it like it is, and he can see to the heart of the matter. um, um, let's see. Um, I mean, I like writing all the characters. Quentin Aldrin was fun from Ascension, not Ascension, Acheron Inheritance, because he's impulsive and he makes mistakes, but um, when he learns, watch out. Connor was was one of my mature, interesting character, I think, because he's struggling to be at peace with who he is, and he's dealing with the cost of leaving Earth and leaving his life behind with things left undone that he could never go back and deal with. Um, those are not a side character, but some of the things I like about characters. Um, how long does it take me to write a first draft? A couple of months. Planning can take me, 4 or 5 weeks. And that's from brain dumps to outlining. I do plot my stuff out, and then writing takes me another 6 weeks, and then there's editing and proofreading and revisions. That's another month. So generally, I'm looking at a minimum of 90 to 100 days to actually get these books out. Um, and that's when you know life doesn't happen. um, None of us saw the pandemic coming, so that definitely impacted my schedule a little bit. Um, what's my favorite novel that I've written? The most recent one. It's always going to be the most recent one. Um, and what's my favorite part of the writing process? Writing. I actually enjoy writing much better than I do planning. But I recognize that there's a necessity to plan it properly. So when I get to the writing part, it does go together and work streamlessly. Yeah. If I could sit down with one other writer, who would I choose? I used to be David Weber, but I did get to sit down and talk to him. So my other person would be Jim Butcher. I'd love to talk craft with him. Um, Advice for new writers: finish what you start. You know, they call it a rough draft for a reason. So that means you can give yourself permission to write that book terribly and go back and make it great. Um, There's nothing easy about it. I won't say that. Some things you get better at, and I think part of that process is learning, what your limitations are. Um, but absolutely finish what you start. And I'm a big believer in committing to a schedule. So if you're considering writing, and you're working full time, you'll never have time, so you have to make time and commit to at least 30 minutes a day, preferably an hour. But most people can take a half hour, set a timer, and write a scene, come up with a story concept, and you know, do it each day. Another question I always get: do I write every day? No, I write Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday I try to take off. When I'm getting near the end of the book, I'll probably write on Saturday, just because I'm in the zone and I've built up momentum. Um, yeah, but yeah, the best advice I can give for new writers, and even people have only have only if you finish a book, even if it never sees the light of day, you've done something most people haven't. You've actually finished something, and I think it's important to finish one book to its completion, then write six partial books. You'll learn more that way. Um, and another question I do get: will there be a sequel to Haven of Shadows? That's the Broken Crown. It was originally going to be a trilogy. There will be a second book. It gets pushed down to the lowest priority only because I've been writing First Colony books. Um, but yes, I'm going to try and fill it in. I do pick away at it. It's like my like black mark, because it's something that I haven't finished, and I really want to actually finish that series. So yeah, yes, just be patient. I will get to it, and I'll probably do some rewrites of the first book. But that's a spin-off series for the Safranarian Order. Um, okay. Okay, that's the end of the questions I have listed that were submitted to me. Do you guys have any other questions for me? Writing series wise, I've been going on for, oh, look at that, 47 minutes. And let's see if I get any other questions. If not, thank you for reading my work. Thank you for reviewing, and for everyone who's reached out to me. Your words of encouragement really, I mean, you never know what day you're having, and then somebody will reach out to you and say something nice about your work, and that's just it's very gratifying. I'm so glad that something that I've created has entertained you, and for some people have actually comforted, and that's something I didn't anticipate. I really writing stories to for entertainment, and I know when I started reading, that was my way of coping, and just escaping regular life. So I just want you guys to know I do appreciate all that. Um, Thank you, Melanie. Appreciate it. But that's it. I actually went on for like 20 minutes more than I intended, but I enjoy talking about this stuff. But all right. I will circle back to this. So if you like, comment, share. Um, I'll give away a couple of signed copies of Acheron Inheritance. And that'll be that. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. Have a good Friday. Bye. Thanks for coming.